Hey, family. I've been told that when taxpayers start a new job, one of the most confusing things for them to do is fill out their. And I believe that because my best performing video on YouTube right now is a video showing how to fill out a W-4 if you are married filing jointly. Well, some time has passed since then, and I want to take the updated W-4 form and fill this out for you. But in addition to that, I also want to make sure that I answer some of the other form, such as what about if you all right? So we're going to look at married filing jointly when only one spouse is working. Then we're going to also look at married filing jointly when two spouses are working and you also have children. But before we get into it, if you are absolutely new to me, you have no idea who I am. My name is Timalyn Bowens, and I am America's favorite EA. I'm also the owner of Bowens Tax Solutions, which is a Louisville-based virtual firm specialized in helping first-generation entrepreneurs that owe the IRS 100K and can't pay today. Now, I'm a firm preventative action, and that's why I'm doing this W-4 series because I honest to goodness do not want you to become my client. You are an entrepreneur, or even if you were the everyday taxpayer that was 9 to 5. I don't want you to get into tax trouble, all right? So let's look at this W-4. And in this example, this is how you would fill out a W-4 if you were married person working, but you file a joint tax return. So let's look at our good friend here that we've all come to know and love. We have Carlton, aka Carl O. Winslow. So when filling out the W-4, you want to make sure that you have your first name as it shows on your return. That's why we don't have Carl here. We have Carlton, which is his legal name. We have O for his middle initial. And if you know what the O stands for, let me know in the comments. Do a little bit of Family Matters trivia here. Then we have his last name, which is Winslow. In box B, we want to make sure we have the social security number. Carl's social security number for the purposes of this example are 911-11-911-9. He lives at 1500 West Wrightwood Avenue in Lincoln Park, Illinois, zip code 60614. Now, we all know that Carl is married to the lovely Harriet Winslow, but this form right here is going to be one of those times when Harriet got laid off. So since Carl is the only person working right now, we're going to click this marriage filing jointly. Now keep in mind, when we choose the filing status here, what it does, it tells our employer when to start withholding money. All right. So for the Winslows, if they don't itemize, this is going to put in the standard deduction for him and make sure that nothing is withheld until we get to what that amount is for 2023. All right. So we're going to go down, and steps 2 through 4, we're only going to fill it out if they apply to you. So what we're looking at is reserved for future use. So no, it is right now. Use the multiple jobs worksheet on page 3 and enter the results in step 4C below. So like I said, Harriet is laid off right now. Carl is the only person working, so that doesn't apply. Here, we don't have 2 jobs total. So this is for if you and your spouse both make near the same amount of money, or you work 2 jobs where you make the same amount, then you could check this box. That also doesn't apply here. So we're going to skip down to steps 3 through 4. All right. And it says on Form W-4 for only one of these jobs, you want to make sure that when you have dependents, you only account for them on one W-4, not 2. Because if we have the same child accounted for on multiple W-4s, that tells your withholder, or not your withholder, I'm sorry, it tells your employer to not withhold $2,000 for each child. which ends up making you get extra money in your paycheck. But when it comes time to file your tax return, we reconcile that you're only getting $2,000 per child under the age of 17. So if we have job one, taking that into account, job two and job three, you're going to end up being $4,000 in the hole where you would owe. All right. Because if we have three jobs taking into account $2,000, that's 6,000, right? But you only have the one child. So you really only have 2,000. You want to make sure that's only on one W-4. In this scenario here, we know that Carl has three children. He has Eddie, he has Laura, and he has Judy. So Laura and Judy, for the purpose of this example, are both under the age of 17. So we're going to multiply the number of daughters he has, Laura and Judy, which is two, by 2,000 and get $4,000 here. Now, Eddie's still in school, but he's 18 years old. It would also apply if he was 17. They're not going to get a $2,000 credit. And as you can imagine, Carl's throwing a fit. They're only going to get 500 for Eddie. So we have this 500. For this step, we're going to add the two numbers, which is 4,500, right? And what this is going to tell the police department for Carl, we have that he is married, so they're not going to start withholding until the standard deduction for married filers. We have these three dependents here, so they also are not going to withhold this $4,500. Now, does that mean $4,500 in one check? No, it's going to split the $4,500 throughout the year. So if we were to look at this, let me pull up a calculator. The $4,500 a year divided by 12. Oh, sorry, my calculator is going a little bit slow tonight. So 4,500 divided by 12. Carl's going to actually get an extra $375 a month in his checks because we're including the children on the tax return, which means instead of this getting applied to a refund, he's getting it throughout the year and getting to keep more of his check. Now, in order for this to be complete, we would need Carl to sign his signature here and date it, and he would turn it into his employee. That is how you fill out a married filing jointly W-4. If you are married, you are the only spouse working, you file a married filing jointly tax return, and you have children. Now, let's get to the question that I'm asked the most. How do you do this if you're married, filing jointly, and you also have a spouse that's working? So we're going to work with Carl again, all right? Because I don't know if you guys remember the episode where Carl got audited. Harriet has made him promise to never do his own tax return again. So step one is going to be the same. We have Carlton O. Winslow and 1,000 bonus points to anybody in the comments that can tell me Carl's middle name. We got the social security number in box B. Address is still 1500 West Wrightwood Avenue. They're in Lincoln Park, Illinois, 60614. We have the box for married filing jointly, but this is the year where Harriet is working. All right. So let's look at Harriet's W-4. All right. Let me make sure. All right. I just want to make sure you guys can actually see Harriet's W-4. We have Harriet B. Winslow, the lovely Harriet, right? B for her is her maiden name because she uses that versus the middle name. So we have Harriet B. Winslow, social security number 555-555555. She also lives at 1500 West Wrightwood Avenue in Lincoln Park, Illinois, 60614. She also has marriage filing jointly check. So when we look at steps 2 through 4, remember, we're going to use the multiple jobs worksheet on page 3, and we're going to enter the result in step 4. All right. So we're going to get to that. Let me take this out. So what I did, remember when Harriet, at first, she was an elevator operator. Then she went to being in sales. No, 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 I'm sorry. She worked for the newspaper as head of security because she does have that police officer background. Then she went to sales. So when trying to figure out Harriet's salary, I didn't do VP of sales because, she doesn't have the promotion yet. What we're going to look at is actually what the head of sales would be. All right. No VP figured in here yet, just head of sales. So when I looked that up, I actually got 110,000. Now, if you watch Family Matters, you know that Carl had a problem when Harriet started working and making money because he wanted to be the breadwinner and all that, yada, yada, yada. And as a child, I didn't get it. But now if we're looking in today's money, the bottom 10% in this position, and of course, this information is from the internet, it may not be accurate, right? I didn't go that far into detail. Harriet's going to make $110,000 a year if she's in the top 10%, which we know Harriet Winslow is not in the top 10, or bottom 10. But for this example, we'll say she was. So Harriet is at 110. When I looked up the average pay for a police sergeant in Chicago, I actually got $98,000 a year. So it is very much possible that Harriet could have been making more than Carl. What we're going to do is find the higher paying job, annual taxable wage and salary, which would be Harriet, and we're going to go here. All right, 100,000 to 149,999. This is going to be Harriet. Then remember I said for Carl we got 98,000. So we're going to go find him. So we're going to go right here. And then we're going to go down until it intersects with Harriet. So we have $14,060. Now, if you remember in the instructions, it said to put that in 4C. But I don't want you to freak out and be like, oh my goodness, I have to have that withheld. What in the world is going to happen? When we get down here to 4C for extra withholding, we're taking into account what it should be for every pay period. So let's say that both Carl and Harriet, you know, they get paid twice a month. So we have 26 pay periods or I'm sorry, not twice a month, they get paid every other week, which, we have those 2 months that end up being 3 times a month. So we have 26 pay periods. So the amount that we have to have withheld extra is going to be this $14,060. And we're going to divide that by 26. So ultimately, they need to have an extra $540.77 withheld every pay period. Now, this is what I see some couples do. They will have the spouse that is paid the most do all of the extra withholding. So if we did that here, we would have Harriet withholding an extra $540.77. But let's think about this. We got a married couple, everything's going into the same pot. What they could potentially do here is Harriet withholds half of it, right? So we got 270, 38. And then we're going to go to Carl and do 270, 38 as well. Now, like I said, they both can withhold and work at this together. Or, he's Carl Winslow. He's the man. He got a point to prove. And if you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. We have the 540, 77 back in here because, for one, Carl already is going to have a little bit extra put into his paycheck, right? Because he is claiming the children. All right. And let's just say, if you really watch the show, that Eddie's under 17 and this is Laura and Eddie, and this 500 is for Mother Winslow, right? Because they can claim her on a tax return because they pay more than half of her upkeep and living, the roof over her head, food, that kind of stuff. Because we all know that really Judy went upstairs one season and never came back. So technically they only got two children, you know. Well, when we do this, Carl wants the extra money in his check because he's doing the withholding. We have the children on here already. What you want to make sure you don't do, and you're going to look at this with your spouse, we have to make sure that Harriet and Carl don't both have the children on their W-4s. Because remember what I said earlier, if you have the same child accounted for on more than one W-4, you're not going to have enough withholding and you're going to end up owing. Now, you may be thinking, why in the world do we have to have extra withholding? The reason being, when you check this box up here for married filing jointly, Harriet's job in W-4 don't take into account Carl's job in W-4. So we would run into the issue of both of their employers not really withholding anything for federal taxes until we got to them making almost $30,000. And because of that, they're going to be severely under withheld because their family is not only making $98,488 a year, their family is not only making $110,000 a year, their family is actually making 200 plus thousand a year. So that extra withholding is what gives them the cushion to make sure that they are not under withheld. Okay? So I hope this answered the questions that I got on the previous W-4 video about how do you fill this out when you have children. But I also want to let you know if you're looking at this because you've already run into an issue with the IRS and you actually owe back taxes now because you and your spouse didn't know that you should fill out this W-4 and you should actually do it together, taking into account their income, I have something for you. I wrote an ebook called Guaranteed Payment Plan, and it is for taxpayers that owe the IRS. It could be 10,000, 25,000, as long as you're under 50,000. If you owe under that, you can pay this off within 36 months. And you are also tax compliant, which means all of your tax returns are filed up to date. Your withholding is correct, which you're correcting it right now if you're watching this video. You may be entitled to a guaranteed payment plan. And what the ebook does, it walks you through how to set that up online or what to say when you call so that you can set it up. I've had taxpayers reach out and let me know that they had their payment plan set up within an hour. All right. Now, if that's not you, and you know you are that entrepreneur or former entrepreneur that now owes the IRS $100,000 and there's no way in the world you can pay that today, I also want to invite you to actually book a call with me and my team to see if we're a good fit to work with each other so that we can step into your shoes and handle that IRS issue for you. Okay. And you want to make sure that you act on this fast because interest and penalties are accruing. If you found this video helpful, please, please, please share with your family and friends because nobody wants to be in tax trouble and back taxes should not, my friend, ruin your life.